Good day, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world of noise, opinions, trends, and distractions, it's that easy to get lost in the crowd. But the real tragedy, not that we get lost, it's that some of us never realize we've been lost at all. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Comfort and greatness rarely live in the same neighborhood. Comfort is where the crowd lives. It's where most people settle. It's warm, familiar, and easy. You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to stretch. You don't have to face fear. You just blend in. But let me also tell you something else. Comfort never wrote a book, never built a business, never changed a life. Greatness did. You see, it's easy to do what everyone else is doing. It doesn't take much to go with the flow. It doesn't take courage to say what's popular. But here's the truth. What's popular is often what's average. And what's average is often what's keeping people stuck. Stuck in a job they hate. Stuck in a mindset that doesn't grow. Stuck in a life they quietly regret. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with people. The crowd doesn't mean bad people. They're good people. But good people with no direction end up going nowhere together. They follow what's familiar. They value comfort over growth, and they settle for what's available instead of reaching for what's possible. If you want to achieve anything of value in this life, you've got to make peace with being uncomfortable. You've got to risk looking strange. You've got to be willing to walk away from the crowd and say, that's not my path. Not in anger, not in arrogance, but in quiet conviction. Because here sets what happens when you aim for comfort. Your muscles don't grow. Your mind doesn't stretch. Your vision gets blurry and your life becomes routine. The crowd says, let's stretch, just get through the day. But the uncommon individual says, let's stretch, grow through this day. The great tragedy of the crowd is not that they failed. It's that they never tried. They feared rejection more than mediocrity. They feared change more than regret. And that's what you've got to guard against. Greatness, on the other hand, it demands something from you. It asks you to wake up early, stay up late, ask questions, think deeply, listen carefully. It asks you to say no to distractions, say yes to discipline, and keep going when the applause stops. Greatness says, come on, get up. You're better than this. It challenges you, confronts you, sharpens you. And yes, at times it isolates you. Because when you leave the crowd, it gets quiet. But in that quiet, you find your voice. In that space, you start hearing your own thoughts, your own values, your own dreams. And here's the beautiful thing: when you step away from the crowd, not out of pride, but out of purpose, you start becoming the kind of person the crowd needs. Not someone who fits in, but someone who lifts others out. So what's the choice? It's simple. Comfort or growth, fitting in or rising up, blending in or standing out, being average or becoming exceptional. The crowd will always be there, inviting you back, saying, hey, take it easy, don't make waves. But let me ask you, do you really want to spend your one and only life trying not to make waves, or would you rather learn how to sail? Don't get lost in the crowd, my friend. You were never meant to be a copy. You were born to be a creator. Step out, show up, grow tall. And remember, comfort is cheap. But greatness is priceless. Most people don't wake up one day and say, I want to get lost in the crowd. It doesn't happen like that. Getting lost isn't always a conscious decision. It's subtle. It's slow. It's a quiet slide into the ordinary. You don't jump into the crowd, you drift. And if you're not careful, drifting becomes your way of life. Drifting starts with small things. You skip one goal. You let one standard slide. You stop questioning the plan. You stop asking, is this the direction I want? And before you know it, you're just going where the crowd is going. Not because you chose it, but because you didn't choose anything else. You see, the danger is not in failing. The danger is in not deciding. Indecision is the thief of purpose. It doesn't take your life away all at once. It just steals it one day at a time. You wake up and go to work because that's what everyone does. You complain about Monday, celebrate Friday, and spend 40 years wondering what happened to your fire. The truth is, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's. And you know what they have planned for you? Not much. Now let's get one thing clear. The crowd isn't always loud. Sometimes the crowd whispers. It whispers things like, just play it safe. Don't aim too high. Be realistic. And it sounds reasonable. That's the problem. It sounds like good advice, but it's really the voice of fear dressed up like wisdom. You must be on guard. You must be aware, because drifting is quiet. It's deceptive. You're still busy, still moving, but motion doesn't always mean progress. You can be moving in circles and call it effort. You can be busy all day and still end the day no further than you started. The real enemy of success is not failure. It's distraction. Drifting isn't failing dramatically. It's settling gradually, one excuse at a time. One missed opportunity, one lowered standard, one forgotten dream, until you look around and realize you've become a part of the crowd you once promised yourself you'd rise above. That's why goals are important. Clear goals, strong goals, written goals, because goals give your life direction. They keep you from drifting. They make you intentional. When you have a vision for your life, you don't need to compare yourself to the crowd. You're too busy becoming who you're meant to be. And here's the kicker. Drifting feels easier at first. It doesn't ask much of you. No discipline, no discomfort, no decisions. But in the end, drifting costs you everything. It costs you your edge, your passion, your purpose, and maybe even your legacy. The cure for drifting is deciding. Decide who you want to become. Decide what matters most. Decide what you're willing to sacrifice. Because until you make that decision, life will keep making it for you. Take control. Take responsibility. Don't wait for the crowd to change. Be the reason someone else decides to change their direction. You've got to set your own sail. The winds of life will blow for everyone, but it's the set of your sail that determines where you'll end up. And if you don't set that sail with purpose, the currents of the crowd will decide for you. Drifting is the easy choice, but the easy choice is rarely the right one. Don't drift. Don't wander. Don't settle. Choose. Act. Build. Create. Don't get lost in the crowd. Because the real tragedy is not being forgotten by the world. It's forgetting who you were meant to be. Clarity. Now that's a word most people overlook. But let me tell you, it's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever carry. Clarity is the great separator. It's what divides the crowd from the committed, the wanderer from the warrior, the follower from the leader. When you get clear on who you are and what you want, you no longer need the approval of the crowd. Why? Because you've already approved yourself. Most people aren't clear. That's why they chase trends. That's why they change direction every few months. That's why they get lost. Not because they're incapable, not because they lack talent, but because they never stop to ask the hard questions. What do I really value? What am I really working toward? What do I stand for when the pressure is on? You see, the clearer your vision, the less you'll be influenced by noise. People who aren't clear will always be loud. They'll shout opinions. They'll demand conformity. But don't be fooled. Volume doesn't equal value. Noise doesn't equal direction. Without clarity, you'll end up chasing everything and catching nothing. You'll say yes to too much, no to too little, and eventually forget what you were aiming for in the first place. That's what the crowd does. It floats. It reacts. It follows whatever is trending this week, whatever's popular this month. But you need to be different. You need to be precise. You need to think deeply, decide strongly, and live intentionally. Clarity says, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know what matters. And when you know what matters, you stop wasting energy on what doesn't. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't building anything. You stop trying to convince the crowd to understand your mission. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break through. Let me give you a principle that changed my life. Don't let someone with no vision for your future hold the pen to your script. If they're not living the kind of life you admire, why would you let their opinion shape yours? Clarity gives you strength. It sets your anchor when life gets rough. It sets your compass when everyone sets lost. It sets the voice inside that says, stay the course, when the crowd says, come back. And don't mistake arrogance for clarity. This isn't about pretending to know it all. It's about knowing yourself. You don't need to be right about everything. You just need to be right about your direction. The clearer you are, the less permission you need. That's it. The freedom clarity brings. You stop waiting for the crowd to validate your choices, because you sit already done the hard work of defining them. Clarity says, I thought this through. I counted the cost. I made the decision. Now here's the challenge. Clarity doesn't come easy. You've got to earn it. You earn it in quiet moments, in reflection, in solitude. You earn it when you turn down the volume of the world long enough to hear your own voice. That's where clarity lives. Not in the noise, but in the stillness. So take the time. Write the vision. Make it plain. Decide what you want, who you want to become, and what you're willing to give for it. Because once you have clarity, you don't follow the crowd anymore. The crowd starts to follow you. And here's what's most powerful. Clarity compounds. The more clear you get, the more confident you become. The more confident you are, the more decisive your actions. And the more decisive you are, the more consistent your results. So don't live your life trying to be everything to everyone. Get clear, get focused, get free. Because in the end, it's not the crowd that defines your success, it's the clarity of your purpose that does. Let me tell you something that'll serve you for the rest of your life. Discipline will take you places popularity never will. The crowd spends so much time trying to be liked, trying to be seen, trying to be followed, but the real winners, the real builders, the real achievers, they're not chasing applause, they're chasing growth. You see, we live in a world where approval has become a drug. Social media likes, nods from the crowd, pats on the back, and while none of that is bad in itself, it becomes dangerous when it becomes your reason. Because if you need the crowd to feel successful, you'll never build anything lasting. Why? Because the crowd is fickle. One day they love you, the next day they forget your name. Discipline, on the other hand, now that's solid. That's real. Discipline doesn't care about trends. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline shows up when it's cold, when it's late, when no one is clapping. Discipline says we made a decision. Now we follow through. And that, my friend, is how legacies are built. Popularity is rented. Discipline is owned. Let me ask you something. When was the last time popularity paid your bills? When did being liked ever build a business, finish a book, raise a strong family, or leave a legacy? It doesn't. The people who make a difference in this world don't do it by being liked. They do it by staying consistent, staying focused, staying disciplined. Now the crowd will try to distract you. They'll say, come on, just relax. Take it easy. Everyone else is doing it. And that's exactly the problem. Everyone else is doing it. If you do what everyone else is doing, you get what everyone else has. And most people, truth be told, are struggling. They're behind on dreams, behind on goals, behind on belief, all because they traded discipline for comfort. You've got to make a decision. Am I going to live for applause, or am I going to live with purpose? Because you can't serve both. One leads to moments. The other leads to milestones. Discipline is the quiet work that no one sees. The early mornings, the late nights, the extra reps, the second drafts, the honest conversations with yourself. Discipline says, I won't settle, I won't quit. I won't let the crowd dictate my standard. Because when the crowd slows down, discipline keeps moving. And let me tell you something else. Discipline isn't always glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it always works. Every single time. You may not see the reward right away, but if you stay the course, it will show up. The harvest always follows the hustle. What most people call motivation, successful people call a habit. Discipline isn't about being motivated all the time. Nobody is. It's about doing it anyway, especially when you don't feel like it. That's the difference maker. That's the separator. And here's the irony. When you live with discipline, you end up earning something far more powerful than popularity. You earn respect. Respect from others, yes, but more importantly, respect from yourself. And when you respect yourself, you stop living for the crowd. So ask yourself, what am I building today? Am I building an image or am I building a future? Am I addicted to being seen or committed to becoming better? Because the crowd might cheer for you today and forget you tomorrow. But the discipline you build today will carry you for a lifetime. Popularity fades. Discipline compounds. Then let's get lost in applause. Get lost in purpose. And the world won't just remember your name. It'll remember your example. One of the smartest things you'll ever do is take inventory of the people around you. Let me tell you, your environment is more powerful than you think. The people you spend the most time with are shaping your future, whether you like it or not. They're influencing how you think, how you talk, how you see the world, and yes, even how far you'll go. Jim Rohn said it best. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now at first that sounds like a motivational quote, but it's not just inspiration, it's a strategy. Because when you hang around winners, their habits rub off on you. But when you hang around drifters, guess what rubs off? The excuses, the complaining, the small thinking. You've got to ask yourself, who's in my circle? Who am I listening to? Who do I allow to speak into my life? Because the wrong voices will sabotage the right future. It doesn't matter how gifted you are, how ambitious, how passionate. If your circle doesn't challenge you, stretch you, and hold you accountable, then you're going to get stuck. Not because you aren't capable, but because your environment doesn't require you to grow. Most people get comfortable with the familiar crowd. They grew up with them. They work with them. They laugh with them. And that's fine. Until that crowd starts pulling them backward. And they don't even notice. Why? Because it happens slowly. Someone makes a lazy joke. Someone talks down ambition. Someone criticizes growth. And you laugh along just to fit in. You laugh and lose a little fire. One compromise at a time. And pretty soon, you're talking more about people than ideas. You've got to surround yourself with people who expect more from you, not less. People who won't let you quit just because it's hard. People who remind you of your standards when you forget them. People who say, that's good, but you've got more in you. That's the kind of circle that sharpens you. That's the circle that pushes you to rise. And let me say this, upgrading your circle doesn't mean you walk around thinking you're better than people. It just means you've decided to take your life seriously. It means you understand that proximity is power. You can love people and still limit access. You can respect them, pray for them, and still say, I need a different environment to grow. The truth is, eagles don't hang out with pigeons. Why? Not because they're proud, but because they were built to fly at different heights. Your vision will intimidate the wrong people, but it will inspire the right ones. So don't shrink your dreams to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Find people who are running towards something. People who talk ideas, not just gossip. People who are learning, building, failing forward. People who invest in themselves, who protect their energy, who aren't trying to be famous, but are trying to be faithful to their calling. And once you find them, stay close. Learn, serve, contribute. Because iron sharpens iron and mediocrity dulls it. You need that edge. You need that standard. Because this world doesn't need more people fitting in. It needs more people who are willing to stand up, stand tall, and stand out. So take a good look at your circle. If they're not pushing you, they're probably pulling you. If they're not challenging you, they're probably distracting you. And if they stir not building something, they might be blocking something. Be intentional. Choose wisely. Because your circle isn't just who you hang with, it's who you're becoming. Most people spend their lives trying to impress the crowd, trying to get noticed, trying to get approval, trying to earn applause. But I'll tell you something I learned a long time ago. The goal is not to impress the crowd. The goal is to impact the world. Big difference. One is about ego. The other is about purpose. You see, impressing people is a short-term game. You do something flashy, say something clever, buy something shiny, and maybe you get a little attention. Maybe people clap. Maybe they say, wow, look at you. But here's the problem. That moment fades. It doesn't last. Because when the spotlight moves, you're left standing there asking, was that it? And so you chase the next round of applause, and the next and the next. It becomes a cycle of chasing approval instead of chasing growth. Impact, on the other hand, that lasts. Impact doesn't always make noise. Impact doesn't need the spotlight. In fact, some of the most powerful people I've ever met didn't walk into a room trying to be impressive. They walked in with quiet strength, clarity, and values, and you could feel it. That's impact. That's influence. The truth is, you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to stand on a stage to lead. You don't need everyone to like you to make a difference. What you need is a reason, a mission, a commitment to something bigger than yourself. Because when you live with purpose, the people who matter will notice. Let me ask you, are you trying to be remembered for what you had? Or for what you gave? For what you showed off? Or what you stood for? The crowd claps for what's shiny, but they remember what's real. Character, consistency, integrity. That's what leaves a mark. And here's the irony. When you stop trying to impress people, that's when you become truly impressive. Because now you're living from the inside out. You're not acting, you're not performing, you're being. That's powerful. People might not understand you right away, and that's okay. You're not here to be understood. You're here to stand under the weight of your calling. Impressing people is about optics. Impacting people is about outcomes. One is for the moment, the other is for the legacy. You want to impact people. Show up on time. Keep your word. Speak the truth. Apologize when you're wrong. Push yourself to grow. Serve when it's not convenient. Love people even when they don't deserve it. That's impact, and it echoes long after the crowd has gone home. You don't have to change the world overnight. You just have to change the way you show up in your world every day, in your home, in your work, in your habits, in your thinking. That's where real influence begins. Now, does this path come with fewer cheers? Sometimes. Fewer likes? Maybe. But it comes with peace, with confidence, with a sense that you're doing what you were built to do, not just what the crowd expects of you. So stop living for claps. Start living for change. Don't just impress the room. Transform it. Don't just get attention. Earn respect. And don't just talk about growth, become the example of it. Because when your life is built on purpose, it doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It doesn't need to be popular to be right. And it doesn't need to be flashy to be unforgettable. Leave a mark. Not on their memory, but on their mindset. Let your actions say what your words never could. And remember, when the crowd forgets what you said, they'll still remember how you made them feel. That sets not performance. That sets impact.